Hey guys, welcome back to BOMT ROV. Thanks for tuning in with us today. There's some preliminary stages of setup that I haven't gone over so far in the past two videos. And I think that we should probably get back to the basics before we get too carried away. So today I want to talk about the loadout kit, which is just the things that I need to be functional in the field. I want you guys to keep in mind that right now I'm still kind of at the learning stage where I'm still trying to get up to speed and so that I feel more like a professional and I can present myself to potential clients and be confident and prepared. The point of me saying this is just to point out that my loadout kit right now might be a little lighter, and where, you know, in the future when I have more job specific tasks at hand or just more knowledge of things I need to be functional, maybe my loadout kit will expand at some point. But right now, you know, it's relatively light. So that's one of the things I want to go over. And the other thing I want to go over is some of the software setup and also some of the calibrations that you need to do on a pretty regular basis. And we'll talk about why you want to do those calibrations. So the first thing we need is obviously the rover itself and the tether spool. So right here you'll see that the tether spool has this cord attached to it, and it comes through to the other loose end of the cord. This loose end of this cord, this tether, attaches to the Fathom X topside interface, and it connects right here. You then have this USB cord over here. This is a weird USB attachment style. I'm not really sure what it's called, but it plugs into the back of the topside interface over here, and then it runs through to my adapter. Since I'm running a MacBook Pro, I don't have a USB port on my laptop, so I had to get this adapter, and I have to always remember to bring that. It's a regular USB attachment right there, and that connects through to the weird USB into the tether box. So I need to bring my Xbox controller, which Bluetooth connects to my laptop. And then I like to keep the battery in this like cylinder box that it came in, and the battery is you know, I have to make sure I charge it ahead of time, you know. And you can see right now that my my battery enclosure, the acrylic tube down here, the bulkhead cap is actually right here. It's detached, and because I usually am messing around with it, I leave it detached so that it's easier access to connect to the battery. So I always have to try to remember to bring the locking cord, because once I attach the battery, put it back into the acrylic tube and seal it up with the bulkhead cap, this locking cord goes in and it kind of wraps around. There's like a way to thread it through. There's a little opening right here on the bulkhead cap. It threads through and it wraps around like this on the acrylic tube. And the locking cord makes it so that you have a little extra peace of mind that the bulkhead cap isn't going to push off and let a leak come in. It's a safety protocol, so I always try to remember to bring this with me too. I wouldn't launch without it, I don't think. I don't know if it's 100% necessary or not, but I wouldn't want to mess with it. But that's my whole loadout kit. So you can see all this stuff fits easily in my little backpack. And then, you know, I can carry, I usually pick the rover up by one of these handles, and then I just carry this in one hand and carry the tether spool in the other hand, and I have my backpack on, and I can really just kind of walk hundreds of yards at least without taking a break. Sometimes I get a little tired if I'm carrying it a super far distance, but it's not too hard to set it down and take a rest. You know, if you're trying to hike any type of terrain or soft ground or anything like that, it might be a little bit challenging, but nonetheless, you can definitely cover some ground carrying all this equipment, even as an individual. So it's pretty cool that I can be pretty mobile with it right now. Sometimes you might want to end up bringing a table and chairs, but it's always going to depend on where you're using it. I haven't really had to face that yet, and I am a little bit comfortable personally with like getting down on my hands and knees if needed. I might do that in some situations, but rather than bring a table or something. But it's going to be case by case in that scenario. But for the most part, this is a pretty doable single trip from the car, single trip with one person type of a setup for me right now. All right, I want to go over the Blue Robotics website now a little bit. We're at the home page here, you see, and the website has a lot of really awesome step-by-step user guides. You can find them by going up to the Learn tab and then going down to Browse All Guides. You can also find the same link down at the very bottom of the home page where it says View All Guides. And when you click on that, these are like step-by-step instructions that are very thorough, and they've really thought of almost everything from my perspective. If you scroll down, you'll see first they have the assembly guide, the software guide, the controller operation guide. But when you keep scrolling down the page, you'll really see that they've covered every like individual piece of equipment that they have. Really, it's very elaborate resource here with all the different, even finding replacement screws, So it looks like there's 4 pages. I haven't even actually seen all that they have, but really any of the equipment that they make, they can really give you a lot of information on. Right now we're going to look at the software setup. This is one of the first things that you have to do after assembling the rover and you have it physically assembled and ready to go. You'll have to set up the software. The first thing you have to do when you set up the software is establish a local connection so that your computer can communicate with the computer in the rover. And that's what it's explaining here in step-by-step detail. It's showing the tether coming in from the rover computer and the USB coming out the other side to your laptop. That's how you establish the local connection, and you can communicate between your device and the rover. So we'll go to the Mac software setup, which is I'm running a Mac, and you'll see in order to establish that local connection, you have to put in the IP address of the rover computer, which is right here, and it's just telling you step by step how to do that. It's down here in your system settings, and then you just follow the steps. Once you have the local connection set up, then you're able to launch the web browser of the administrator page for the Raspberry Pi computer and the rover. You just click this, and it will open up in the web browser. And you'll see when I click it, it's not going to open because I don't have the local connection set up right now. I don't have the battery plugged into the rover, and I'm just showing you guys the guide right now. But I lost my spot. Here we go. So the firmware, once you get to the administrator page, you can download the correct firmware, and you follow the steps, and it'll show you right here. You just want to, it shows you how to get to this step, and you just pick the most recent firmware. And this firmware is able to natively interact and integrate to the Q ground control application. And this application is third-party, and it's open source. And because it's open source, Blue Robotics was able to write this firmware that integrates with the Q ground control third-party software, and then you're able to see the configurations of the rover available and your specific parameters that relate to your system that you're operating. So from here, we've gone over some of this stuff, but you can do joystick calibrations, you can do sensor calibrations, and this is kind of what we're going to segue into now. We're just going to talk a little bit about some of the sensor calibration options and see a little calibration dance. All right, so now we're going to set up the rover and we're going to try and experiment with some of the sensor calibrations. And the first thing we have to do in order to connect to Q ground control so that we can access the settings is we have to plug the battery in. When you plug the battery in, you'll hear one sound that is signaling that the initiation is starting, and then a moment will pass and you'll hear a second sound that will indicate that the initiation has completed. And once it has completed, that's when you'll see on Q ground control that you now have a video feed. So you have to plug it in. Here we go. Do-do-do. Now I also have to plug in to the top side interface as well, and the rover, the tether cord as well into the top side interface. Give it a second. It only usually should take 30 seconds approximately at most. Sometimes it might take less, or but if it takes much longer than that, then it's an indication that something isn't quite going right with the boot up process.
Manual flight mode. Lost manual control.
Okay, so when it makes that second sound, I do now have video feed, and this is the point at which we can start to get into the settings, and we can start to see the options that we have available to us for calibrations and sensor information. So the first thing that we want to do, and now that we have the camera feed and the connection established on the rover, is go up to the purple Q in the top left-hand corner and go to Vehicle Setup. Over on the left-hand side of the screen, you will see all of the menu options. And we want to start off with a joystick calibration. So we'll click on Joystick. And once you have the joystick calibrated, you will see that the dots here are lined up pretty close to the center. And to do the calibration, you click on Calibration, and you click Start, click Next, and then you follow the prompts.
Control.
You start with the right thumb pushing up, then down, then right, then left. Now the left thumb, you click right, left, up, and down. And then you are all set. You click Next to finalize that calibration and click back to the General tab. And you'll see that the dots are all pretty close to the center, which means that when you input commands to the joystick, the rover will respond pretty much exactly how you input the commands. And that's pretty much it for the joystick calibration. The next thing that we want to do is go to the Sensors tab and click on Accelerometer. And to do an accelerometer calibration, you need to manipulate and maneuver the rover itself in space. So you want to make sure that you have a flat surface that you can rest the rover on top of, and you want to be able to make sure that you have a clear space around you so that you can maneuver the rover in space without any issues. So click on accelerometer, and then we click on OK. And the first position is flat on a flat surface, and just sitting on the table is acceptable. We can click Next, and you'll see the box turn green. Now it looks like we want the left wing of the craft facing down. So we'll face the left wing down and rest it on the table. And we'll click Next. Now the right wing needs to be resting on the table. We'll click Next again. The nose is next.
EKF3MO0 forced reset.
The nose facing down on the table, and click Next. Now the tail end down on the table, and click Next. And now upside down. And I'm going to overhang the sonar so that it is not hitting the table. And we'll click next. And there you have it. That's an accelerometer calibration. And once we've done an accelerometer calibration, you'll see the prompt on the screen to reboot the vehicle, and we should click on that. After a few moments, it will update these calibrations, and you'll hear the completion of the booting process as it sounds off. It'll do it any second now.
Manual flight mode.
There you have it. You have reestablished connection with the Q ground control. And now we have the accelerometer calibrated, so we can go back into sensors and we can do the compass calibration, which of course involves the compass calibration dance. So, by the way, you want to make sure with the BlueROV2 webcam that is comes with this BlueROV2, the camera is designed so that it can be flat, but the way that it is installed in the electronics enclosure, it's actually tilted on a 90-degree angle. So on here, that's what roll 90 refers to. You want to make sure that that's on the proper setting here in the calibrate compass menu so that it knows which direction is the flat ground when you're doing the calibration. It should automatically default to that, but you'll want to make sure not to change it, or if it is changed, you want to switch it back to roll 90. So we'll click OK to start the compass calibration. And all you need to do then is have a clear space around you, and you grab it by the two handles on the outside, and you start rotating the rover in space around all axes, and you'll watch the menu or the progress bar on the screen of Q ground control as it is progressing and getting closer to completed. And it looks like we were successful. We have our indication in the green on the compass 1 and compass 2. And there we go. Once again, you have to reboot the vehicle to finalize these changes and let the system update. But the reason you want to do this is just to make sure that your environment, your magnetic surroundings of the magnetic field around you have not changed the sensor in the device. So we'll click reboot, and once it initiates again on the computer or on the battery cycle, then you're all set.
Manual flight mode.
All right, we're in business now. You should be able to launch your rover and have it feeding back to you some accurate data on your depth, your position holding, your cardinal direction heading, and you should be all set. Thank you guys for tuning in to BOM-T ROV today. I hope you learned a thing or two about how to operate the BlueROV2. And I think it's great that they've designed this platform so that you build it from the ground up, and I think it helps when it comes time to do any troubleshooting, or when you're ready to evolve and maybe add on new equipment to the platform. You have a good baseline of knowledge so that you can work on it. If you enjoyed this type of content and you want to learn more with me, I'll be putting out new videos like this in the near future, so please click like and subscribe and stay tuned for the next one. In the meantime, hope you have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.